about His Holiness's visit and the impact that it had here. So in terms of that, his message was about compassion, and we wanted to show in the documentary the similarities that the Hawaiians and the Tibetans share. And I think what's so important that we get your comments on that is that you're Tibetan and you live here in Hawaii. So you sharing with us what you know about that would be very important for other people to hear. And so I guess what I really first want to address ourselves to is the question about how you recognize, like, Dalai Lama's teachings on compassion and love and global responsibility, and then how you possibly recognize that in the Hawaiian people that you encounter here.
Then I will talk to him, or
You can talk directly to the camera, and wherever you need help from him, you can ask him for your help. Just give me just a minute to make sure they're rolling, and then I'll signal you like this, and then you can speak. You ready, guys?
Is it okay if I sit on this thing?
It'd be easier to.
Is it okay if I sit on this? I don't want to be disrespectful.
Can you sit on this, Joyce?
Just don't sit on a book.
Oh, watch out, watch out, watch out. You moved it, and it's like against the lamp area. Can you get that out?
Move the lamp.
Yeah, the lamp, you moved the bench, and so the lamp is on. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, stand by, guys.
Your voice comes out terrible.
I don't want to, my voice
Doesn't matter.
doesn't
Okay.
need to be there.
Okay.
So even when I'm talking, I edit me out. It's only going to be you two. Okay.
Smile a lot.
I think it's my English, maybe nobody understands. I think we're through to Chris. I think better.
You want to do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do is, like, you'll speak in Tibetan, and then we'll turn to Chris and let him help you. One of the things I want to ask you real quick is, when you've got your shot in hand, have him more to the right side of the screen. There we go.
Not the how I let
Less headroom.
Wait.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so
There's a lot of sound from the rain. I'm not sure whether we shouldn't.
we need to wait for the rain.
Oh, if the rain goes
Because
away,
the
it
sound-
may just be here for a while.
Camera.
your Eric and your both of question today is His Holiness Dalai Lama came to Hawaii, and he taught us compassion. And compassion is very important, but compassion is without talk, then nobody understand. And compassion talk, just our as human is listen and complete it and think about. And compassion, without compassion, and nobody can happy. Nobody can become as peace. Even spiritual way, as without loving and compassion, cannot develop bodhicitta mind or enlightened mind. And without bodhicitta's mind or without enlightened mind, they cannot to liberate or liberation to Buddhahood. As that's for very important, for Buddhist way is always to goal as the eternal enlightenment or Buddhahood. You looking forward as goal to Buddhahood, then just only hoping doesn't work. We need combinations. And then how do we do it? Buddhahood needs the bodhicitta mind. Bodhicitta means who is already has eternal enlightenment, who is already liberated, who is already has experience, and who are the eternal enlightenment experience path or experience teaching left to us. Then we are developed to bodhicitta's mind, then we Bodhicitta's mind as to how to develop. We need the compassion. They just only talking about compassion never arrives, but how to develop the compassion. And we need the loving kindness. And loving kindness means our as to our own family, our own friend, like that, then you any beings, anybody to love, kindness. And so usually as a spiritual way, Buddhist way is loving means who has already happy and try to continue keep happy, health, without suffering. So that's the for you already to know all being to happy without would never be separate to happy. That means. And then compassion means who is suffering. Try to help away from suffering. If you have teaching spiritual, or you want to some talk, or you whatever you experience the skill explanations, so that's compassion. And compassion means also spiritual way is how to develop your own kindness as mother, or who is your life as who is a really important person help you. Like that way, as to important, you never forget. Likewise, all beings to be happy have been as our own parents or mother. But we don't know because we have reborn, death, then we are always thinkings making garbage is our Buddha nature's mind is covers. Like as we were talking about this morning, as the sun is very bright. Without sun, we cannot do anything. Likewise, our mind is like Buddha nature, is like sun. But sun covers through cloud covers through sun. Like that, as our developments, emotion, continued as a river, waterfalls, as our thought like that. That thought comes, then covers our Buddhist mind potential as covers. So then they are worse, not the Judicial Nimbugatani Yarjatang Togia Maris, the Maripati Getani, Payamasuke, Judicial Nimbutani, Dibdugores.
If we cannot understand our minds for what our minds are, then our essential character of being enlightened will be obscured. And with that obscuration of our mind's enlightened nature, we will not be able to see our own enlightenment and to realize our own potential.
Then understand this life as your mother kindness really deeply. You cannot hate your mother. You cannot resentment to your mother. Then you really understand your mother as very important than yourself. Likewise, and not only this life mother, previous life mother. Even your animals, any beings, they kind to own child. Same way, continue some beginner's time to enter now, like that happens. So that's the way never hurt anybody. You cannot argue, cannot hurt any beings. So that's the you answer compassion developed. So you never be hurt anybody. You want to wait?
Yeah.
Rain?
Just for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tamche jiktendi la pembarchewa dang shiwa drupa dang gebar drupa dang wangcha drupa dang tamche yongso dzobba shiwa top tupe chetu ngato jikten kimit.
Okay, stand by. We're getting ready to roll.
Ninders. Zamne manse chitang tan zamne shid goyores. Zamne shid kanga goye te yina tan zamne shid kanga rang simara gyores. Tan sim shiwa chena tan rang ke sim shiwa te rang zasang jeme pogola shiwa to gores. Tan rang jeme pogota nammi kanga shiwa chonsona tan rang chimse ta tan pa tomba tsuna shiwa to gores. Pete naushin chetne 하늘로 때는 강 같은 데지 시도 정선나 때는 하와 용조라 시원된 거 때는 아메리카 때는 시도지 된다지 거마도 잠는 시디 ladne 카시아 바진지 심 같은 시와면은 깔가보여 그래서
Now, if you want to talk about the question of bringing a peace and happiness to the world, it's absolutely essential that you understand that the first point is to find peace for yourself first. If your own mind is not at peace, then all of your efforts to bring peace to others and to solve the problems of the world will be fruitless. So the first point is to find peace for yourself. It's just like if you have a family and a member of the family is having problems. If you don't resolve the problem within the family, you will not be able to resolve problems within the community or the world at large. And so you begin with finding peace for yourself. This depends on having a clear understanding of the conditions of things and having a clear understanding of your own situation, limitations, and conditions. And for example, if you can come to peace with yourself, then you might make a contribution to the peace of the place you're in, such as Hawaii. And if the people of Hawaii came to peace with themselves, they might be able to make an impact on the status of America as a larger country being at peace with itself, and then this peace might emanate further out to encompass the entire world. This is just one example, but the important thing to remember that peace and happiness begin within your own mind.
tani shibdi zoala tani zopa gom gogyare and shirap gogyores tani rang tani simte kan tan me chamala ngasuk tani jonga jila tani zupo yawa yinsan tani inaya tani pe rang tani samsan driwa samsan mandriwa mambu yungures tila tani zopa gom sigyores tila tani nauji jimi jandala tani zopa gamba tani jandala shiwa jebala tap tani pe tap ta shirap tani gogyores.
Now, as far as the accomplishment of peace, it requires that we understand patience. And on top of patience, we need understanding. And if we have patience and understanding, first of all, for ourselves, then we will be able to find a peace with ourselves. And then when we look at others, then we, by our understanding of others and our patience with the differences and similarities that different peoples have, we will be able to find a kind of peace. Now, the bodies that we all have are made of the four elements of earth and water and fire and air. And while we have these corporeal forms that we carry, we also have minds. And it's the mind which finds or fails to find peace. And when our bodies find themselves in situations that are not comfortable, that are unhappy, or that we suffer various miseries in our worldly existence, it is only by the knowledge of our own minds and patience with ourselves that we will be able to find peace with ourselves. And then if we want to reach out and spread that peace unto others, then we will need certain methods of doing that that will definitely involve a clear understanding of who we are involved with and who we are ourselves, and a general patience for the whole situation.
tene tiki na me tsangma la tene nyumon pa yore nyumon pa la tene nyogda yungore nyogda yungna tene tombo rang nyogda yungore rang nyogda ke tene rang nang chime pogu ta tene kansa phama penja suna nyogda chegore tege tene rang la debe meba simjen janda la meba debe meba chak yore otela tene rang pa penja tsama ke debe men janda la am debe meba zug yores te yenta rang shiwa chen nang me la shiwa ya pu yungore rang shiwa nang me shiwa yana nyeri nyende tsama shiwa chi yungore te nauji mi janda la labji chi to gores te janda labji chi suna chig labji chi ne te tende chi shiwa yung se gores.
Now, when we talk about some kind of obligation to world peace, it's important to realize that that peace begins at home, and in particular, peace begins with ourselves. And if you look at any normal situation around you, you'll see if there's a problem within the household, maybe a dispute between husband and wife, or a problem with children, or so on, and no peace can be found for that problem, that the problem will tend to emanate into the community. And as the problem emanates into the community, more and more people will become upset, and the general unhappiness of the society will spread and further. On the other hand, if a problem within one's own self can be pacified and understood based on a basic attitude of sympathy and compassion and caring, concern and understanding, and that this can be applied first personally and then directly to the members of one's own household, that the peace that is within one's household can spread to the community, and then it will spread out further and further until it can reach all the directions everywhere. And so it's important to realize that one's impact on others begins with one's finding of peace within oneself, and then through one's feeling of concern and compassion, actively spreading that understanding and patience that one has found for oneself.
LamaRinchen, could you, when you answer, could you talk at the camera, even though you're speaking to him?
Oh, okay.
Better if you look in this direction.
Okay, and then, which is, I really like that answer. Is there a way to refer to Hawaii a little bit more in terms of that, in terms of?
Hawaii ki gorashe
tene de chitang tene de nga Hawaii tene Hawaii ke kohon nasen ke de chuta tene so je amarte yena kanga tene ta Hawaii de meri kurang ta zuta ta na ta böke meri ta paje tene de dukpa ta ta meri ta po pasa ta na shashu jaka dawo je tene meri jiba dawo dos tene ti na tene ta na hamoni tene pe kurang ke luksu dawo ta tene chuch tis kanga paji chikpa injeres yena ke dagya mares ke ma dawo inza tene de chu tison yakbo yena me dewas sigmare kanche tene chusun kente kanga yakbo yema sidares yena ke ma dawares kanesana 하와이 그 추에 나야한테는 강가 때 고나 생긴데 심제 탐지게 되네 하와이 롬바다 심제 탐지게 되어তে 비게 되네 배 추진지리 맞아 뼈대 나야한테는 벽이 매당때는 연 심제 탐지게 되는 잠분에 로어를 쭉 심제 탐지든 되어고 비게 되네 추지리스 때는 야한테는 추 문다 만부 용세거데 배나가서 그데 힌두당 무슬림당 때는 주스 만부 요르데 때선때는 추 참마 야구인지레스 가에서나 추지에나 추지데 메빠 차스나 차라레스 then 치문다와에나 아니 찌기 조서나 찌 대게야레 찌 조나 찌 대게야레 삐띠 나진지 데 자훈지나 메 칼라지 마타메나 칼라 조사스나더니 차라레 때 미지 마토 미치가 가야테 가래나 때 조선은 메바레스 때 자혼치나 칼라 망부 자송나 미 대강가데 세강게 세 때는 랑카가 드파 강에 바테 자베레스 때 자선은 주포데와 캄데 히와 주포데보 차그레 때 나오신지 인지를 상관도스.
Now, I myself have lived here in Hawaii for 16 years. But in all these 16 years, I have failed to learn Hawaiian language. I have not had the chance to study with any of the great teachers of the Hawaiian tradition. And actually, my contact with the true Hawaiian transmissions of teaching has not been strong. The main, as I have seen, the Hawaiian people are very similar to Tibetan people in many ways, including such things as their physical build and their general view towards nature and towards humanity and so on. But I've been faced with a serious problem of language. I do not speak Hawaiian language, and I have not met a Hawaiian who speaks my language. And for this reason, it's difficult to say with absolute precision the similarities and differences of the Tibetan view and the Hawaiian view. I can say that it is quite obvious that it is part of the Hawaiian value system to work towards a peaceful communion with nature and one's fellow men, and to strive to understand the forces of reality that affect people and their interaction with nature. This is also true of the Tibetan view of life, where we generally speak in terms of 6 types of living beings, those being those ranging from beings in great torment to beings of great pleasure, and human beings and animals and so on. And a true practitioner of the path in my tradition is someone who strives continually to bring peace to all levels of existence, wherever they may be. And so in this way, I see that there is some basic similarity between the Hawaiian and Tibetan traditions. However, if you say that it's necessary to find a unity in the different religious traditions that one encounters in the world, then I have some questions about that, because as it seems to me, if you look at the world, there are many major religions and there are many minor religions. And for the major religions, we can take note of such traditions as Islam and Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on. And then there are many other traditions of religious practice. And some people may say, well, there should really only be one religion. I personally disagree. I think that it's very healthy for the state of the world that there be many religious opportunities available for the many peoples of the world. I see it as if we went to a restaurant and just ordered one plate of food and sat there and ate it for ourselves, and other people showed up and sat at our table, and there just wasn't enough food to go around, and we satisfied ourselves, and that was done. That would be the view of having one religion on earth. Whereas if we go into the restaurant and we ordered huge plates of all kinds of different food, and no matter who walked through the door would definitely find something on some plate that they could eat and satisfy themselves and fill themselves and be happy and content with that, then that would be most desirable. And not only that, but if the table became full and one person finished eating, he could leave and another person could take his seat, and there would still be enough food for that person, and it would be to that person's taste. So in this way, I see that the different religious traditions of the world are all representing different ways that individuals may find peace and happiness in accord with their own tastes and their own situations and conditions. And so I would not like to say that we need to prove that this religion is identical to that religion or this religion is different than that religion. What we need to say is that all religions have the same basic aim and goal, and that it is the realization of that common aim and goal, despite diversity in religion, that should be our great aim.
tene te naujin che tene pe chulu thama tene maung pe dhamma jukayin ba te pang ba ta te maung ba sinjan thamje ke te dewe ke jite dugu ba ke tene te ke lam da uji teng gyores te lam te ma te na ane panglam ni te shigya ma panglam te ma shi na ane tu te men ni ngom ma shi ba da cha gyores.
Now, everyone everywhere is not only looking for a way to be happy in the present, but they also want to ensure happiness for the future. Now, if we do not analyze what kinds of things will bring about future happiness, we may make some very serious mistakes about we may make some very serious mistakes in our actions, which will in the end result in unhappiness. And it's just the same as a person who wants to drink ambrosia but ends up ingesting poison. And for that reason, understanding and patience are very important in our pursuit.
There's another question here in terms of, like, in the Tibetan religion and way of life, they recognize chanting and sound and music as ways of healing and other things. Could he say a little bit about that?
Perkichulula kandun demba ngat deba yang chepa tsokor chepa dindre chut chebani semnan zu la zubo chaba dang chuki lam la pemba dang gewa dupa dindre sheya yore rinpoche di sawar cheruna
te yores pelatne de men nasona yang tne shaptin chegres tne mishisona yang tne shaptin chegres tne yang de 치치 루치 latne sanji kombo tope ke tende yana yang tne pe jitim kuro latne menjung chene tne pe mimi sal tne pe lomba na tapu na dene tne ninsen me pa lomang po na tne chamden tne dunka yores te yinzan tne te son te sim la rag yores sim ki tepa chimpo chena ichi chena te chama yung si yores tene ichi me ba ji tena tne pe tesum dabu yena munne tne yena yang tne pemba yung mai ma pemba dabu yung si gres
mune tangne pemba yuna yang
pem ten munne angkansa pemba yena yang tne ichi mena
oh yeah.
tne yang yung mares.
Now, it's quite true that in the Tibetan tradition, we do practice the invocation or recitation of certain sorts of oral practices that include, for example, I always used to recite a long life prayer for my teacher. And even after my teacher died, I continued to recite his long life prayer. And you also find people who go into caves in snowy, cold mountains and sit there for years doing recitations of magic spells and of prayers and so on. And you find that the use of prayers and invocations and spells and so on very commonly in the Tibetan tradition. But what you have to understand about this is that it's not the voice that is fundamentally important. It is the mind. Because if the mind does not believe that the spell or the invocation or the prayer is of any use, then it will not be of any use. And if the mind is not strong in the practice, then the ability of the prayer to achieve its end will not come about. So what is of fundamental importance in the Tibetan tradition is the state of the mind. And based on the state of the mind, various practices involving the speech and the body may be employed. But it should never be forgotten that the mind is fundamental.
Tene ti nangji chu sinkin de tene pe nepa yin nepa ya tayak. Ani yang tene pe me dikpa yin tene dikpa chinchi shina yang tene dikpa ta ne tene turela cheba tang. Wa tende yoares. Tesung ya tene pe tene chu yor te yin yang kram tene pe nepa te yichi tepa rang putang. Ani pe shinkin yin shinkin kite ko namshim zupa meba namshi yote namshi te yan tepa yawa simti kurang yawa yan ti yan pengi wares. Tane ti yan penpa meba dawji yin ate ichi mena yan chu yakpu yana ya tane pengi ma wares.
Now, a fundamental element in this, when we talk about the state of the mind, is our position of belief, our confidence, our faith. And now, for example, it is true that if a person that is very ill and close to death is recited to with words that will give them guidance on their path to their next life, that even though they might have been a very wicked, evil, terrible sort of fellow or person, that if they can follow the chant and the advice with a firm conviction and a strong sense of belief in the power of that, that they will be able to find a way to be reborn in a good existence and overcome the negative karma that they have developed in the course of their life by the power of their conviction during those last moments, being guided by a master who knows the spells and chants to lead them by. But on the other hand, if they're full of doubt and mistrust and fear and confusion, then no amount of recitation or spells will be of any use to them.
Could we say something more about chanting in particular? Is there more?
Kandun chebala gibar shiro.
Tene te kansa te domba dunya la tene te domba la yan tene nga da rumu tanda yoares. Nga da rumu meba te kasa rang tene pe ke chunchun chine dunya tanda mambu yoares. Ke chimbu dung kalda tene yang tenya tanda yoares. Yang teng kala tene la takbo tang. Tene la chuo tanda dene shekabla tene de nga tang rumu atani ke te son tene bonbon wa tanda chi gugi yoares. Yang tene sanga ke chu dabo ta himba tanda dung kala ke chunchun rang makta janda chulo me janda makowa wa tanda dung gugi yoares. Tenya namba naso yoares.
Well, there are many methods of practice involving recitation and chanting and so on. There are some where, For example, it's necessary that we bring out the cymbals and the drums and use these musical instruments to accompany the voices of those doing the chanting and so on. It can these are considered big voiced kind of ceremonies, and we might even bring out many kinds of instruments. And in the case of what's called a gathering of the group, then we might bring forth many kinds of instruments and chant loudly and with a ferocious voice. And in these cases, we will generally be invoking the great deities of wrath and anger and might and destruction and so on, and encouraging them to maintain their peaceful sides and to guard and protect the way of peace. And but we might do these ceremonies with a very loud and ferocious sounding voice because of the nature of the powers that we are invoking. Now, on the other hand, when you talk about the secret traditions of utterance, we might recite our recitations in such a small voice that even if you were sitting right next to me, you wouldn't hear a thing coming out of my mouth. And the recitation is going on, but no one may hear any word of it. And this is involved in the secrecy of the chant. And then there are many practices in between, all of them accommodating the specific need and purpose of the chant.
Then la told in the dentishun, and mother muta, getting a boss in the chimbujani, and the la told using any master non getting Chupa Yungata, Naya Tayata, Tendekitini, Maples to yours, Kayasana, Diki, Nasa de Chichena, partially Yungore, Chichena Nango Chupata, Sim Meduat Kangatani, Dutan Parchetenda Yung, then Maples, La Tool Tenetini, La Tool Dentition, and the Maples of yours.
Now, in these cases where we bring out the cymbals and the drums and all of that, and invoke the deities of wrath and anger and so on, you should understand that we are not, you should understand that the purpose of such ceremonies is that we realize that a situation has gotten out of hand. People's emotional obscurations and confusions and fears and hatreds have taken over, and that no ordinary methods of pacifying the situation are of any effect. And when we bring out these instruments and we recite the prayers with a very powerful voice, like that, then we will do that with a specific intention that by the power of these great deities, these confusions, these hatreds, these angers, these frustrations, these doubts, these fears will be pacified, because the hatred itself is such a strong form that it requires a deity of great power and wrath to counteract that hatred. So it is not in the name of destroying human enemies that these deities might be invoked, but in the name of destroying the spiritual enemies, which are our own emotional confusions.
So I just want to clarify, Lama, is it voice or sound that is the key power, or is it mind?
Yang dan ta dan ke cheshurebe sem ke cheshurebe.
Sim that young te Nisha Guyores, Kurant the young te sim getni zik dungure zikla teni yang yungures teni yang te teni zikla yungwa tengwares zik te teni sim get ripala teni yungures te thamma nyang du guyores.
They're all required together. There arises in the mind a word, and the word is expressed by the voice, and the voice makes it into a song. And the song is understood as words, which are understood by the mind, which realizes the meaning of those words with its own awareness. And so it's the mind and the speech interact completely in carrying out the ceremony.
Okay, can we cut the cameras for a second?
Maybe when you go back, she will give you. Sorry.
No, she's gonna tell me go someplace else.
Mama.
Yeah.
Can I make you something to? You want some fruit?
No.
Is there some more
Oh
tea?
yes.
Yeah.
Come.
I just gotta get some tears.
And some cookies too. What's your name? Eliza.
Eliza, and
Leo. Leo. Are you a
Wait,
pretty
with your card, in fact, I drive around, you have a card on a pod.
Yeah.
Right, and it's sitting next to my steering wheel in my car.
Uh-huh.
So I
We definitely
just
spent
keep
time
on
together.
going through
We
my
did it
head,
for the
where was
reception.
this?
Was it here?
for the reception?
No, it wasn't here. It
Was it
wasn't
here?
here because the only time
Was
I'd
it
been
at the
here was the
reception?
day the Dalai
Yeah.
Lama was here.
Yeah, I was here then.
I know, but that wasn't it, that wasn't
So
it.
that's why we were everywhere.
No, I was all.
Meri number na so teni Hawaii la teni yungni kanga deba yungni teni de changsa jane teni pe teni yunguyores mo tiwa teriwa
Chansa kyaba mare rinpoche.
teni
Mi
Namanatso.
mi namanatso yul ramendra Hawaii layong ne Hawaii mi rignatso dupe ne re mi natso dupe ne yinsa
Mahama.
tawa namparnatso yubare tawa namparnatso yutsa gecha mambo she yore gecha mambo she ne jikten tamche Peshana jikten tamche Hawaii du dugi yore jikten kimire tamche Hawaii du yutsa Hawaii jikten kachir jikten chunchun chire dinda yintsang Hawaii jikten kimi tamche la pe
denda res ngoma res chorang ke sai ba tena zambula ke me kanga naba na so tena Hawaii la duya res ta tu du ku pe junsen chi sheu res teni Hawaii long sungen de sharshu ta nushu ka sansam res teni America la ina nushu se ge ore teni nushu ke me chama teni Hawaii la sa chi chipu yan sang teni de la yung ge ore sharshu jaka ina te Hawaii la chipu ye ba mi 통 메나양 암지도 거기 아래 되는 대바 용기 아래스 되는 아메리카 대비 준세 용기 준세 니레스 진이 크로선트니 참참 주네 사자 야르카 메바 공카 메바 야르고 도녀 찍바 인사 텔라트니 찍부 인사 텔라트니 용기 지 아래스 때 진이 되네 아니니 돈세 니바데 샤추고 메리 mambu 야바 인사 되는 대바트니 샤추고 룩스 소준 쟁켄데 용기 아래스 tenieres tenen sharsho ina te nauji cheres te yinzan tende zambule ke meganga namba naso de la de ewa yinzan te de la tene yindenji petana ten chapda kare yina ya zambule yongla tene chap togi ores ten tampo de shin
I'd like to begin by saying that this is a very good point. In Hawaii, you find that there are representatives of most of the cultural heritages on Earth. And this needs to be looked into. How could it be so? Well, for one thing, you find that Hawaii is precisely in between what we call the East and what we call the West. And now, in the case of the East, many people have come to Hawaii either for the sake of studies or because of intermarriage or because of the search for employment and so on, and have ended up settling in Hawaii. Many people from the mainland of America and so on have come to Hawaii perhaps with the idea that the weather here is much better than what they had before. In particular, Hawaii is a place where the terrible heat of summers and the terrible cold of winters are absent, and it's seen by people from the mainland as a very wonderful place to settle. And whatever their purposes may have been, people from all over the world have ended up settling in Hawaii, and this has created an excellent situation for the interchange of ideas and for cross-cultural awareness to develop.
Then looks lotion checking pe lotion nafsho ina sharshula dugo mare sharsho mena nafshula dugo mare ta Hawaii la yongson na tini pe looks manda kanga lotion che tokyo res then yunda tina che lotion che tokyo res.
Now, from the point of view of studies, actually Western people don't really need to go to the East, and Eastern people don't really need to go to the West. In fact, they can all just come to Hawaii and they can study what they want to study.
Then sacha dinda chipo yobate then tegas lilhabo nigmaras naso then pela na nam tomo jagarle na then sawa chimbo dinda rete then sacha then Hawaii lombate then dodang nyombo yargo mepa medo yoba pong da xing da jevo mambo yoba teson kanga pe yargo mepa yoba yanzate sacha chapar chenjeres sacha chapar chenjinza me sodo chimbochi da me then le zambochi mena debasle togumares.
Now, if you look at a country like Tibet, where it's always freezing cold, or a country like India, where it's always burning hot and miserable, and then you compare it to a place like Hawaii, where the weather is always nice, it's never too cold, it's never too hot, there's always a lot of greenery and foliage, many fruits are on the trees, the climate is always exceptionally good. There are many opportunities to meet interesting people and to gain knowledge. You cannot ignore the exceptional nature of this place. And it would be fair to say that only people who had some very good karma and very good inclinations and intentions could find themselves able to settle in a place like this, where the life is the basic needs of life are so easy, and where the hardships of the atmosphere and the climate are so few, and where the opportunities are so many. It's really a rare and exceptional sort of place on the planet that we live.
Ante antene jute chimma ke tene juya pochi sonam sani te jebo tsindela tene Hawaii lomba tene chibuchi le tle ma te gas mi sama te kanga yung kal khabres.
Now, in my own opinion, this is a matter of karma, and the fact that in previous lives, certain individuals have built up certain karmic tendencies by their good deeds and actions and favorable interaction with others that allows them to be born in this life in a situation where they might settle in a place like Hawaii. If they did not have some very great store of good karma, it would not be possible for them to settle here.
때 메메체바트네 강산 하와이라트네 톤드이나 페치포레스 마소 벨라이나트네 야타 데이터 따든데 요르데트네 잘라 코르네 가사칼라 라라도 롱라밥 든데체 고교래 자가르라이나트네 페 톤드타 랑고 빠주 야 요르데 조모 요르데 테송트네 야카 짜야바 공카 짬메바트네 다와만포트네 데고교레스 때 메체바트네 야카네 몬바잡 사코르 도코르 tene korlo korne tene chala ormotba orgu yare tene pe tondo ina le ngamba tende yawares hawa ina tondo ina ya tsa ninseme ba tsa za rengula kawa dona tene chumambu yaba ku nyane zani ti mata jada leka yamares kuran sete mazo pato tene pe chibore yawares ta tondo ina tende pe le zambo yawares.
Just take a look at the situation of the animals. Let's not even talk about the people. Let's talk about the animals. Now, where I come from in Tibet, the animals have a really hard time. Basically, we have like male and female yaks and horses and sheep and so on. And their lot in life is pretty much that it is freezing cold most of the time. They have to maybe like for a couple months out of the year there's greenery, the grass and such that they can eat, but oftentimes they have to go for months and months without any sort of food that they can get except whatever sort of dry scrub grass they can manage to munch. And not only that, but they're always owned by human beings who do nothing more than force them to climb high mountain passes and then descend deep into valleys and then climb high mountain passes again. And the life of an animal in Tibet is a really miserable situation. Now, if you compare that to Hawaii, the animals here really have it easy. There's always grass and fruit and plenty of leaves, and they never go hungry. They're free. They fly around. They're not constantly goaded by human beings into doing like ungodly sort of tasks, and they don't have to die of hunger and cold on a regular basis. And just if you look at the situation of the animals here, it's obvious that just to be born as an animal in Hawaii is a far better condition than to be born, for example, as a yak or a cow or a sheep in Tibet.
tene 책임마다 하와이라 따 요마레 지 요마레 tene pe simjenla jiba yomares tene jagada pelaina tene simjenla yan jiba tata zig lambuche tende zagares watinde jiba yomares.
And not only that, but if you look at Hawaii, there are no tigers and leopards and jackals and wolves and poisonous snakes and all of that running around everywhere. And if you compare the situation to Tibet and, for example, India, then life is really hard because everybody lives in constant terror of the various ferocious animals that are all out there waiting to eat them.
Teinza tene ngaso chimuma ke le yakpo cheba inza devas le bare ta chen de la ya maung pa tende yakpo yong ya chit chen de te le yakpo chi sana maung pa tene maung pa jebo yakpo chi yong riwa yores.
Now, if you look at these things carefully, you'll see that we have accomplished some very great good karma to have arrived and be able to settle in Hawaii. But it's not enough just to sit back and be content with our good fortune in having found a good place to live. We have to think of the future, and especially we have to think of whether we're doing the sorts of things now that will ensure that we have good lives in the future as well.
Great. I have one more question, Lama, and that question has to do with, do you notice that there is a
tende pecha jana sa de mama yena tende ta tajin shibana je tende mama yena tende sharsho me 노쇼다 용 토기야마르 노쇼메 샤르쇼다 토기야마레스 tenen tinsan tinta chocha ke tenten sharshu ta no sho dra le lawo yenza tenen yenden de kawa yena tenen pil te pe ya de le lawo ya res te yenza te tinsan tenen pe ta chulu da yena yenden yena kare yena langsa te me chama tenen lojin che de ba sama langsa zo to go ya res pe te na jin che tenen chitun go jaji thambal la jar mo che hawa pe kabla me mambu ya mares ngasu me chusoke me tuju khatangchi kala heltin la chervares te ma to ya mare te began la ina tne me nyeshi sunju chi ma to ya mares ta te najin che ta mi samma tne rikpa sabo tensan me rikpa sabo me ganga yinda chimpori inza an chocha mambu chocha sabo ya wa inza tne ta tensan jaram boshila tne zamluk shibdik Nobel Peace Prize the top 콩 윤단 다더니 배 예와 치 미상막 대인자더니 상막 그때 나오신 지더니 윤단도 고바저런도 상는 미상막 그때는 윤단 로주제 더박 예바 인자 안 되게 상막에 더바침보 라게어레스 된 더바 되게 윤단도 예바 고군도 상 상막 친겨와레스 된 윤단다 된 상태는 사이언스인게 상막했더니 때 이치요래 텔레트는 고바트는 먹고바튼 삼상상 하고요레스
Now, if you compare the situation today to the situation of long ago, then it's clear that there are some differences. For one thing, long ago, what we call the East and what we call the West were very far from each other. And people from the world that we call the East could not come to the West, and people from the West could not go to the East. But due to the influence of modern transportation, such as airplanes and boats and so on, and modern communications and so on, it's become possible for people not only to communicate with each other, but to actually meet each other and to exchange ideas. In the modern world, the transmission of information and the movement of people has become very easy. Now, one of the results of that is that various areas of knowledge, including the sciences as well as including religions, are now available to be studied by those who wish to study them. And the opportunity is available, the materials are available, the information is available. This is a great change from the days of old. And all that remains is that somebody has to want to study something, and then they pursue getting the information and they can study it. This is a great advantage. And you can see some of the results of this happening just in the course of the last several years. For example, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama came to came here in 1980, very few people came to see him or were even interested in his presence. Whereas when he came in just not long ago this year, thousands and thousands of people came. And when you look at the situation of the progress of the different centers, you see that more and more of the centers where the teachings of Buddhism are taught and practiced, that the membership has become more and more stable and responsible, and is also growing in a reasonable and honest kind of way, and that there's a great strength developing in religious practice that goes beyond faddishness and temporary fascination. And it's this type of long-term commitment to the goals that Buddhism represents, primarily the goals of peace on earth and the understanding of each other, that have made possible the nomination and acceptance of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for the Nobel Peace Prize. and he has become a leader in the world in the name of understanding, cooperation, patience between different factors in the world, and all in the name of bringing peace to the world. We see all around people in whatever aspect of their personal tendencies and potentialities manifesting a genuine desire to work towards spiritual understanding and world peace based on their own honest convictions, and we see definite progress. I think that the advancement in communications and transportation brought about by technology, in combination with the awareness, the understanding, and the good intentions of those who have a spiritual path, have come together to create a much stronger movement towards spiritual understanding and world peace.